So there was a successful farmer who had wonderful bumper crops. He had no place to store his harvest. It is so vast, so he decides to build bigger barns. This successful farmer has gotten to the point where he possesses far more than what is needed right now, and he wants to rearrange his life to accommodate this new success. And isn't this what we do regularly, or at least what we wish we could do regularly? Who amongst us does not or did not, if we're retired, wish to be successful in their chosen profession? If that involved trading goods, who among us didn't want to be successful at that, to make money? And on the level of what is valued in our society, and Jesus' society, presumably, what this man is thinking is perfectly reasonable. He had accumulated great wealth, and he says to yourself, self, I kind of like that. You have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. Now, there are many in Canada who live hand to hand, day to day, paycheck to paycheck. And these people probably do not find money and possessions to be a source of sustained comfort and security. This is something that is reserved for those who are more wealthy. Now, there's nothing inherently sinful about relaxing, eating, drinking, and being merry. Those are not bad things. Yet, Jesus says this man, or within the parable, God actually tells this man that he is a fool. This man is not called evil. He is a fool. He has not done anything explicitly sinful or wrong. He has not beaten his servants. He has not stolen from the poor. Yet, according to the parable, he is a fool. So a fool, there's many ways one can define what it means to be a fool. So I took a crack at it, and I suggest that a fool is someone who does not act according to reality. A fool does not understand. A fool takes seriously those things that should not be taken seriously, and does not take those things seriously that should be taken seriously. So why and how was this man a fool? I would suggest that he was foolish in the way that many of us are, the way that I am sometimes, and maybe you sometimes. This man had a foolish conception of possessions. The many goods that he had in his life did not really belong to him, but he thought they did. God tells the man in the parable, this night your life is being demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? In other words, when this man dies, who will own all his wonderful possessions? Whoever it is, it will not be him. And death is a wonderful equalizer of wealth. None of us, it's old aphorism, none of us take it with us. So those of us who are fabulously wealthy and those of us who are living hand barely subsistence level leave this place in the same condition with nothing. Naked we are born, naked we shall die. All the good things we now possess will one day in death slip from our grasp and belong to somebody else. You know this, anyone who has been an executor of someone's estate, when they die, you have to deal with all their stuff, right? All that stuff that was theirs now is yours to deal with. So taking the long view, this means that what we own, we really don't own at all. We only have it in hand for a short period of time, and that's about it. And God tells this fool, this very night your life is demanded of you. So even this man's life, in the final analysis, does not belong to him. Even our lives are on loan. They are ultimately the possessions of God. We ultimately own nothing, not even our own selves. So that's one way this man was foolish. Another way, he had a foolish conception of death. He knew death was coming eventually. We all know it's coming eventually, right? But he was foolish because he assumed he had more time. He thought about his life in the future, and it was a long life. But as the parable unfolds, this was not to be. He assumed a future that he did not or would not end up having. Now, sometimes our lives can seem predictable. We go through daily routines, and if we aren't surprised by things in our lives, everything can seem quite predictable, to the point where it even can feel a little boring. Now, there's obviously a future for all of us, but we become fools when we rest secure in our predictions about what that future will be, especially when we base the expectations of what will be upon our past. The rich fool in the parable did not account for any important radical surprises in the future. His expectations were, if you will, closed. He anticipated a particular future. He saw his great wealth. He wanted to put it in bigger barns. He had a very specific projection as to what his future was. A pleasant future. It was a nice future, but it was a closed future. The future that actually happens is very often not what is anticipated. It is, whether we are fools or wise, it is an open future. It is not something we can define or predict with any great level of certainty. So can we be open? The challenge is, can we be open to a radically unknown and open future? The future, this kind of future can be terrifying, it can be exciting all at the same time. And sometimes we, like the foolish wise men, seek to dull the edges of the terror and excitement by convincing ourselves that we know what's coming. Mozart, not to change subjects here, but Mozart died when he was only 35 years old. So a very young gentleman. Obviously, he changed the world in that short time frame, at least the world of music. 4 years before he died, he wrote a letter to his father, and I'm going to read it at length because it's a great letter. It's something I've always carried with me for decades as relevant when it comes to contemplation of death. So Mozart wrote to his father, "As death, when we come to consider it closely, is the true goal of our existence, I have formed during the last few years such a close relationship with this best and truest friend of the human race, that death's image is not only no longer terrifying to me, but is indeed something soothing and consoling. And I thank my God for graciously granting me the opportunity of learning that death is the key which unlocks the door to our true happiness. I never lie down at night without reflecting that, young as I am, I may not live to see another day. Yet, no one of my acquaintances could say that in company I am morose or disgruntled." Death is a mystery, a surprise. It holds, when we look at it, sometimes we're so scared of it that we just don't even want to look at it. So obviously, we're not going to really learn the lessons that it might have for us. So I pray that we, like Mozart, can be wise. May we have open hearts to that which we cannot anticipate. I pray that we will be wise in how we understand and use the possessions, those things that have been given to us for a season, and that we celebrate and worship God as the lover and true possessor of everything, including our lives. I pray that we will be wise in how we understand the great mystery of time itself. If our time is drawn to a close, no amount of possessions is going to make any difference to us. May we rest in the hands of God, the God who holds the mystery of our days in her hands. Amen.